Hey Vibers, it's your boy Kai, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Vibe with Kai podcast. And today, I'm honored to welcome my friend Julian Gluck, and a distinguished Air Force officer, 2018 Military Times Airman of the Year, Forbes 30 Under 30 for Law and Policy, and a beacon of dedication and sacrifice for our country. Julian's journey is nothing short of extraordinary, from his heroic missions in combat zones to his impactful contributions in volunteerism and innovation. In this episode, we'll uncover the lessons Julian has learned through his prestigious awards and the sacrifices he's made to service our nation. And if you're seeking inspiration from someone who's truly made a difference, both in the skies and on the ground, you won't want to miss this episode, this interview that I'm doing with my friend Julian. We'll hear all about his incredible story, and I'm ready to be moved and motivated by a true American hero. So let's dive in. Julian, what's up, man? How are you?
Pressure's on. What an incredible intro.
I know you got a lot of pressure to live up to now, man.
All right. Well, I'm doing fantastically. I'm really excited to be here. It's been a while since we first met over in Minnesota. And I'm pumped to get to chat again.
Absolutely. No, I'm so happy that you're on. And I actually I want to start there because I want to give people like a background to how you and I crossed paths. So Julian and I, we were both selected as we were part of this group called 10 Outstanding Young Americans, which is presented by JCI USA. And we were two of the 10 people that were honored that day. So we got to meet up in Arizona at the ceremony. I said Arizona. Did I say Arizona?
You did, but another wonderful
I meant Minnesota. I meant to say Minnesota. I don't know why I said Arizona. We met up in Minnesota, and it was such an incredible couple of days there. So I want to start there. What was that weekend like for you? Like the whole TOYA event, the ceremony, meeting all these other people. What was it like for you?
I was particularly excited to be able to bring my parents to the event, which was something that really felt like bringing it close to home. It was only my second time ever in the great state of Minnesota. The weather was fantastic.
It was.
And everyone was so nice. It's definitely that Midwestern culture of being cordial to everyone that I enjoyed there. And my parents have been with me for so many of the really important events in my life, from being commissioned in the Air Force, my graduation from the Air Force Academy. Also, they were able to join for the Air Force Times Airman of the Year at the Service Member of the Year ceremony. So getting to have them with me and to meet the other recipients as well was just fantastic. It was definitely a whirlwind because I wanted to get to know the other members of our class there for the year, as well as all of the wonderful volunteers who came from all over the country and a few from around the world to be able to attend JCI USA, or Junior Chamber International USA's big national event.
Yeah, man, it was so much fun to meet everybody. And what's really cool, like I really felt like an outsider, right? Because everybody there was being honored for like some really like cool, heroic things. And meanwhile, I'm like, I make silly videos about introversion. Like I felt so out of place. But what I loved about meeting you, you gave a really memorable speech that I think hit the hearts of many people. Can you walk through real quick for the people that don't know that story? Can you just walk people through what you talked about in your speech and why you brought that up?
Absolutely. Receiving of the award was particularly meaningful to me from another standpoint, in that over the course of the decades this award has existed, there have been a number of really impactful military members who've been offered the chance to stand on that stage and be able to accept it. One of whom, of course, is President John F. Kennedy, from his heroism in World War II, and this was before he became President of the United States. And I thought about him, especially with being a current student at the Harvard Business School, about like the kind of impact that individuals like him were making at a young age. But I wanted to share about a lesser-known hero, at least lesser known to like the modern era. And that person I spoke about in my speech is Captain Colin Kelly, who was a World War II aviator from the bomber community, so they're the same community that I fly with. And Colin's actions as an aviator in the war were extremely vital to being sort of an initial light to all the darkness that had occurred, particularly in the Pacific Theater, and a sacrifice that he gave as he was in his aircraft trying to destroy some enemy naval vessels, ultimately to the sacrifice of his own life, was a sort of uh, big movement across both the U.S. military and the people at home for positivity, something that the U.S. could look out to after the devastation of Pearl Harbor, since the particular wave that his crew was involved in was just a few days after the attack. So I wanted to share his story as I believe the second bomber pilot to have received it, to go back to someone who I think is truly a hero. And the fact that when he received the 10 Outstanding Young Americans Award, he was not able to stand on that stage because he had already sacrificed his life to save his crew so that they could escape and bail out of the aircraft, and to be able to fight against one of the United States foes at the time. So to be able to share his story meant a lot. And, I wasn't able to get much information on how that year's ceremony actually went. I would hope that Captain Kelly's family was able to attend and receive it posthumously uh, on his behalf. But in the absence of that, I felt like his story was one that needed to be shared with a modern audience. So it meant a lot to be up there and to talk about him.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you did, because it was such an incredible story. And I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank you for your service for our country and everything that you do, because I can't imagine what it's like being out there. It's scary, but you like the bravery that it requires is just insurmountable. Like I just thank you for what you and your colleagues have done for us. And what led you to the Air Force? What made you, what at what point in your life were you like, I want to go into the Air Force?
Thank you very much, first of all. And I've been very grateful now since 2008, getting my start to be able to serve in uniform for over a decade on active duty, and now as a reservist. Anything I've been able to do is all in gratitude to having incredible aviators and airmen that I've had the chance to work with, crew members to fly with, commanders to have led me, and as well as sergeants and other enlisted members who supported me on that path. So I appreciate that. My start basically began from birth. So I didn't come out of the womb marching and saluting, but it
Yeah.
was relatively close to that. So I'm from a very long line of military service members. My father served in the Army and then was an aviator supporting Special Operations Command. Both my grandfathers served, maternal in the Navy, paternal in the Air Force. A number of my great grandfathers served, great great grandfathers. So it's really something that was ingrained in me as a youth. Like, it's not mandatory. It's not something that was forced upon me, but it was a legacy that I wanted to continue, and that really, like, looking back at these great uncles and aunts, and now having four members of my family who are currently serving. My younger brother is a captain in the Air Force, as an acquisitions officer. I've got two cousins who are serving. First cousin Blaine, she's an artillery officer, and my second cousin Steve, who's a major in the Army, getting a little bit closer to retirement. Just having that network within the family of service members to talk to and learn from, and my father's own experience. It's something that I wanted to do. So I grew up not just playing with Army men, but trying to invade the tree forts in the neighborhood. I was
Yeah.
writing manuals about what it would be like to serve in the United Nations as a service member. And then I reflected, like, a couple of years ago, I was working as the aide de camp to the commanding general of 7th Air Force, which is our Air Forces in Korea, who is dual hatted as well as the United Nations Air Component Commander. And I was like, wow, after these years when I was a little kid pretending to be in the UN and as a soldier. Now I'm actually working for United
You're
Nations.
actually
And
there, yeah.
so that was cool, kind of seeing the UNC
Yeah.
flag. But yeah, so I grew up thinking about that. I knew I wanted to become a military officer. I wasn't sure exactly the path. And then when I learned about the service academies, I thought, okay, the Air Force Academy is my goal. I had the chance to visit for a summer seminar when I was going into my senior year of high school, went out to Colorado Springs and went, this is the place for me. Put in
Hmm.
my application, received my nomination from a U.S. Senator, Senator Saxby Chambliss, now retired, and thankfully was accepted. Spent the next 4 years from 2008 to 12 in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and at first doing calculus on behalf of the country. So I had not too well if you looked at my transcript.
Listen, I'm really bad at math. That's my worst subject. I'm really bad at math in general. So
I did better in the other ones. Calc 2 freshman year, first semester, that was tough. But
yeah.
I ended up making it through the rest of my math classes quite fine and majoring in political science with a minor in the Japanese language. Had a blast. Got to jump out of airplanes, fly airplanes and gliders, and go to Japan and take part in some really interesting summer programs, from interning at Congress to actually helping with mental health programs as the
Hmm.
director of military guidance officers for basic cadet training. And then upon graduation, it was time to figure out, what am I going to do next.
Yeah.
Air Force mathematician, I don't think was on the docket, but a particular career which does use math and meteorology and electrical engineering and everything else in combination, pilot,
Hmm.
became the way to go. And then my flying career began.
That's amazing. And you got to, in addition to everything that you just talked about, you also got to fly some very critical, important combat missions. How did those missions shape your perspective that you have now on leadership and teamwork?
So the road to get to combat was certainly a long one. It takes a lot of training to get the chance to go there. And for me, it was very humbling training every
Hmm.
step of the way. So the academy went very smoothly for me, even with that one Calculus 2 class. So I graduated in very high standing. I felt really imbued with a sense of passion and like take on the world and really crush whatever comes ahead. And pilot training was a return to earth moment. A little bit of a joke there for that. And
Yeah.
just really valuing how my teammates, the other pilots, as well as the instructors, helped push me through. Like Euro NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training, you've got the best flying students from North America and Europe coming together. Everyone was like summa cum laude out of their
Yeah.
undergrad, or they were like tons of flying experience in Germany and Norway, and just brilliant, really skilled, athletic young men and women who are coming together to learn to fly the T6 Texan 2 and the T-38C Talon, which is a supersonic fighter trainer. And in these aircraft, you are just going at extremely quick speeds, sometimes faster than the speed of sound. I think I went
Yeah.
1.11 Mach in
Oh
the
my gosh.
T-38 on a supersonic run. We're doing loops and barrel rolls and aileron rolls. And a loop in the 38 is like a 10,000 foot tall maneuver. You're
Oh
moving
my gosh.
quickly. At some points in formation, you've got like almost 90 degrees of bank, 10 feet away
Yeah.
from another aviator in
Oh my
fingertip
gosh.
formation, then doing instrument flight rules so that you can fly in heavy cloud cover, or depending on the weather, or at night. We had low level activity. There was a lot. And during that, I definitely leaned on some of the just really naturally skilled and super hardworking folks who I was able to join in the class of 1404, the gentlemen of the skies, as we
Hmm.
called ourselves and had on our patches. So that helped a lot, and it was a time which really reinforced with me the power of teamwork, the power of being able to just be humbled and grow and learn from others who are better and more skilled, and to also grow and improve oneself. So went through that, was selected to fly the B-52H Stratofortress. The B-52, it's a historic aircraft, but still a very modern and effective one. The ones I fly were primarily from 1960 and 61. Those are the
Oh my
H
gosh.
models, which are the modern version. It's an 8-engined Banshee, carries a vast load of different munitions from cruise missiles to laser-guided bombs, GPS-aided, inertially navigated bombs, all sorts of interesting other munitions, from carrying leaflets, canisters, to sea mines from our conventional nuclear missions. And going through the training for that, becoming a co-pilot after completing it, I once again had to go, okay, how do I learn how to refuel with another airplane when you're literally connecting with another aircraft, a tanker aircraft, in the sky, and then fuel gets passed on a line through a boom to your airplane. So a lot of potentially dangerous, but with our training, just challenging work. And with that, again, having phenomenal crews, being able to learn from our instructors, our weapons instructor course graduates, which is the Air Force version of Top Gun, as well as our navigators and electronic warfare officers who make up the other part of our 5-person crews. So aircraft commander, co-pilot, radar navigator, and electronic warfare officer for the total 5 of us that we would fly with. So I went through all this training, and it was announced that the B-52 would be returning to combat. We were going to be sent out to be involved in Operation Inherent Resolve, which were the actions against ISIS. And I really, really wanted my chance. It was like all of my life, from as a kid thinking about joining the military to going to the academy and then pilot training. Although flying is something which is very enjoyable, all of it was the intent of the opportunity to make a real difference overseas for those in need. And when it came time for the first deployment, I did not make the cut. That was because I was still very, very new to the squadron, and we weren't sure who we were going to send ahead, or who was going to stay behind to continue to get more training in case there happened to be another deployment afterwards. So I was pretty bummed. It's like, wow, I don't know if this is going to be the only chance. There are 4 operational B-52 squadrons. Mine was selected. And even if it did extend, there's still 3 others. Like, did I miss my chance? And thankfully, the stars aligned. The B-52 was needed for a sustained period of time. And when the second squadron was getting sent, they needed more bodies. And so I was like, send me. And thankfully, 4 others from my squadron, we were put together on a team to join the other one. And we joined the 96th Expeditionary Bomb Squadron, the Red Devils, as they're called, kind of spooky. And we went overseas and spent 6 months based out of Qatar, flying combat missions in Iraq and Syria as part of Inherent Resolve against ISIS, as well as Freedom Sentinel for a couple of us who had the chance to go to Afghanistan in the fight against the Taliban. So extremely grateful I had the chance to participate in both those theaters as part of the entire Middle East conflict. It was particularly powerful that at that time, both my little brother was on an Air Force Academy deployment to the Middle East as part of a sort of internship, if you will, overseas. And my father was also flying in the region. So we had the whole family, minus my mom, who's back home, probably like, my boys.
Yeah, all 3 of them. That's amazing.
Being a rock for the rest of the family. And it was a really tremendous time, and getting to help support the liberation of the cities of Mosul and Raqqa from ISIS with my close-knit team, as well as the entire bomber community, the Air Force, the rest of our branches, and our international coalition partners, including the Peshmerga Kurdish fighters on the ground, and local Iraqi and Syrian fighters who also supported our mission. So yeah,
That's
it was a
amazing.
wild time.
That's amazing. And so I'm curious, with everything that you were doing for yourself, for the country, for other countries, all of that stuff, how does it translate back to what you do now in regards to volunteerism, mental health? How, like, what lessons are you taking from that to apply today?
One of my biggest things is I think that in the contemporary world, in an environment where fewer and fewer people are associated, particularly in certain regions of the United States or urban environments, with those who do serve in the military, in contrast to World War II or Vietnam, where conscription made it so that more people were around those who had been
Hmm.
drafted or served in the military. It's important to help reduce a lot of the stereotypes about
Hmm.
what military service means, show how our force is well integrated, it's diverse, it's made up of many different people who don't represent a monolith, who really care about uh, doing what they can to help the United States and the world. And volunteerism for me at a strategic level is something where you can do tremendous good not only within your community, but also to help bridge the gap between civilians and military members,
Mm.
whether that's potentially building a home with Habitat for Humanity or participating in a charity 5K where people see you there and they go, "Oh, I didn't realize you're in the military. Oh, I didn't know military people did this." Like, my start in volunteer work wasn't as part of some like kind of grand national plan to help
Hmm.
bring the civilian military communities closer together, but more so, I just really love giving back. When I
Hmm.
was a kid, I was involved with the Civil Air Patrol, which is a cadet program that now, as a senior member or adult volunteer, I'm really proud to get back to today. I had the chance in college to volunteer a lot with the Knights of Columbus, and thereafter through different programs out in the community too. And with all this charity work, I find it really brings peace. It really intrinsically affects me in a very positive way to see the impact that you can make, even if it's something small in your local community. And the lessons I learned in the Middle East, particularly, were that there are so many people who can use the time, talent, or treasure of those who have the means to give back.
Hmm.
The first one that comes to mind, when I was in the Middle East, we had these incredible uh, third country nationals or foreign immigrants who would work on work visas to support our military bases. And a lot of the members, they were from the Philippines, as well as I believe we also had some from uh, other parts of South Asia and Southeast Asia,
Hmm.
and they would cook food and do janitorial services on the base. And we had this drive together to help uh, get as many donations of like undergarments and
Hmm.
T-shirts to be able to support them, so they had more clothing because they were sending all of their money back home to their families. They would
Right, right.
come from Southeast Asia and just live in the Middle East and work for the
Hmm.
Department of Defense to be able to support their families back home with higher wages. And that inspired me also when I was walking around my base and noticed all of these care packages that were
Mm.
just on the ground or being thrown out because organizations and churches back in the United States were sending all these goods to the deployed service members, but it were things that like we didn't need at our base. Qatar is a
Mm.
modern first world nation as far as the like dining options. People are driving
Sure.
Ferraris around, not on
Yeah.
base. That would have been a really impressive move there, and
Yeah,
probably not
right.
going to happen. But yeah, there's incredible dining options, and even on base we had our dining facility, so we didn't need all of these care packages of food. And sometimes they'd send really curious things like baby supplies. I'm like, there's
Mm.
no babies out
Yeah.
here on the base. We're flying missions, so
Like, thanks though.
yeah, I'm like, I can't use this diaper.
Right.
Someone maybe would want to on a really long flight, but
I would
not.
imagine so. I was about to say, I'm like,
But not for me, not for me. So
right, right.
I was like, well, these are just getting thrown out. There's probably people who can use these. And so
Mm-hmm.
I reached out and started Googling to figure out, are there any organizations in the city of Doha that could use these, and found a uh, local complex that supported some religious and community outreach institutions for
Mm-hmm.
mostly the South Asian and Southeast Asian immigrants who were working to build like the World Cup stadiums, and who were in
Mm-hmm.
uh, very challenging circumstances, sending their money back home too. And with the help of the chaplain and chaplain assistant at the base, we were able to help collect all these just donation boxes. And I got some other aircrew members to
Mm-hmm.
help find these around the base for me. I loaded them up in a truck, and with a couple other volunteers, we got to bring them uh, out to the folks who needed them most. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a really powerful thing for me, because I wanted the time that I spent out of the cockpit to try to be as meaningful as it could compared to the
Mm-hmm.
time that I spent in the cockpit.
Right.
And my first deployment for me was that uh, really beautiful mixture of kind of trying to bring peace in the air,
Mm-hmm.
and also helping bring peace, or alleviate challenges for those on the ground.
Right, right. You talk a lot about the people that inspire you, and the people that keep you going. But I know that you also now you take on the role as a mentor, because you have been doing this for long enough that you get to see like the next class of people, of young people that are joining the Air Force, that are joining these missions, that are doing this for the first time, things that you've already experienced. What is your approach to mentorship? You know, now that you're at a point where it's like, okay, I might know a thing or two. What is it like being a mentor now, and what kind of things do you tell them?
Well, I definitely know at least one thing, and that's the power of mentorship. But for two
Hmm.
through infinity, I've still got a lot of learning to go.
Sure.
With my mentor activities, I find different avenues through different programs. Some of it's really
Hmm.
informal. It might be someone saw my Instagram, or came across an article and they just wanted advice.
Hmm.
I've been doing a lot more of that when it comes to regard of active duty to reserve transition, or for military members who are thinking about going to graduate school full time once they leave. But through the more formal channels, I've been really grateful to be a mentor with the Civil Air Patrol,
Hmm.
being able to help guide cadets who are between the ages of 12 to 20 on their leadership journey. The Civil Air Patrol is the civilian auxiliary of the Air Force, provides a lot of opportunities for the, I believe, over 30,000, or roughly somewhere around there, number of
Hmm.
cadets as they consider going to college, or to the world of work, or to the military, or a number of different ways to go. And at the local level, being able to talk with these young students, and give them advice, and go over aerospace education and the magic of flight,
Hmm.
or if they're just wanting to perhaps have another figure who can give them some additional guidance, particularly
Hmm.
those who are coming from homes that may not have a supportive environment.
Right.
There's another program called the Company Grade Officers Council. A company grade officer is a second lieutenant, first lieutenant, or captain in the Air
Hmm.
Force, or Space Force, particularly. And that's a junior military officer, someone who may
Hmm.
have recently graduated from ROTC or the academy, or from being a prior enlisted member, who's maybe recently finished their university times. And a lot of times when you're kind of a very young leader who's
Hmm.
now either flying airplanes, or providing maintenance, or just learning how to develop that leadership mindset with
Hmm.
sometimes much more experienced enlisted members who you are now responsible for leading. There's a lot of benefit from being able to talk with those who have already gone through this for a while. And I became involved in the Company Grade Officers Council at the local level, our group of junior military officers, because I found out that there was a way for me as a pilot to kind of step outside of being in my green outfit, just hitting the flight line, doing
Yeah.
missions, and also get the chance to talk to other lieutenants and captains who were lawyers, or doctors and nurses, finance officers, people all across the base who I wouldn't necessarily see on every day. And together we could do community work. We had a program where we had an Oktoberfest, everything with the German band and the
Nice.
pretzels and schnitzel. And we would use the funds raised from that to be able to send our junior enlisted, our very like 18 to early 20s military members home for the holidays if they didn't have the money to support themselves. It's like, wow, this is incredible that we can get this group of young leaders together to help our enlisted force, to help the base out. So I was involved at the local level as the vice president for Barksdale Air Force Base in Shreveport/Bossier City, Louisiana, and then helped out at the region level, which for like the Western United States, and then eventually was the executive director and national chairman for what is now the Department of the Air Force Company Great Officers Council, supporting the over 47,000 captains and lieutenants of the Air Force and Space Force, including the Air Force Reserve and Air National Guard. When I finished that role, when I promoted to major, and now I was old and decrepit and, just what everything a lieutenant or captain thinks a major is, I was no longer a company grade officer. I was a field grade officer, and I retired from my position and was really grateful that I was asked to stay on the board of advisors as chairman emeritus. And since then, over the past few years, I've had a really wonderful time being able to mentor and advise the current board at the Department of the Air Force Company Great Officers Council as they work with senior Air Force leadership and Space Force leadership to improve opportunities for our lieutenants and captains, and also to around the world on deployments and in the bases, which are scattered across Europe and Asia and the Middle East and the Americas, to volunteer and give back.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. Like, and on top of all of that, and I'm glad you mentioned this before, but I want people to understand you're doing all of this, and right now you're also enrolled in Harvard Business School, if I'm not mistaken. You're doing all of this, and you're enrolled at Harvard Business School. How do you have time to do anything? Where do you find the time to do all of that and still pursue the continuation of your education?
Well, if you've got any time lying around I can use, please send it to me.
I definitely don't. I have none.
I know you don't.
I have none.
Maybe one of the listeners or viewers.
Yeah, right. Can I please borrow some time?
Please spare me a few hours. I could really use it. I find myself consistently overloaded, but I love it. I need that element of stress from going, oh crap, I've got like this nonprofit I need to help with for a board assignment, or I got an actual assignment at school, or I need to learn what calls and puts are in options trading for my Finance 2 class. I think my professor would really appreciate if I get that down. And also trying to maintain a fitness regimen or find time for my Air Force Reserve service. So like right before this video podcast, I was knocking out some telework for the Air Force Reserve, trying to fit in some time there. So it's a lot, but I think I'm in the right place. I loved my time on active duty, and now as a reservist, being able to still support the United States in my current role, where I'm an individual mobilization augmentee. Fancy word for I work a few days a month and a couple weeks over the summer in my current arrangement, supporting the Department of Defense in the Defense Innovation Unit as we seek to accelerate the usage of dual-use technologies, so a lot of civilian technologies that we can apply for military use across a wide variety of portfolios, from autonomous technologies, advanced energy, machine learning, artificial intelligence, human systems. So a lot of different technologies that we're seeking to use and make a difference across the military branches and the DoD as a whole. So that's been wonderful, being able to give back, and I'm looking forward to hopefully many years supporting the Defense Innovation Unit in my role as an Air Force major, and with any luck as a lieutenant colonel a few years from now as well. And now I'm a full-time student most of the rest of the time. So I'm getting close to finishing my second semester of the MBA program at Harvard. It has been wild. This is
Yeah.
like the civilian college experience that when I was a cadet at the Air Force Academy, I won't say I missed out on. I loved the
Right,
academy.
right.
I enjoyed the
Mhm.
rigor and discipline of it. But I had
Right.
also seen the movie Animal House
Yeah.
and went, I want to at least experience a little bit of that. Like maybe
Just a
not
little
ride
bit, yeah, yeah.
a motorcycle up a stairwell or
They did
uh,
some crazy things in that movie, so
they did. Yeah, I wasn't looking for exactly that, especially
Right.
now in my 30s. But
Right.
this has been great. My classmates are phenomenal. They're brilliant from all over the world, and they're not,
Mhm.
from investment bankers and former government officials, consultants, nonprofit leaders, fair number of military members as well, about
Mhm.
5%. It's been fantastic. I'm learning a ton. Every day is something new, and I'm just seeking to grab as much info as I can and also receive some incredible peer mentorship from my classmates, most of whom are a good bit younger since they've talked the talk and walked the walk in
Yeah.
industry. And I'm learning how best I can try to take these principles of what it's like in business. So if after graduation I pursue a particular career that relates to business or some other form of industry, I've
Mhm.
learned everything I can, and I have a great network of classmates to also reach out to and go, hey, what was that thing I missed in class again
Right.
that relates to this? So
Right, right.
it's been great. And there's still
Yeah.
time for fun stuff too. I'm singing in
Mhm.
an a cappella concert
No
in a couple of
way.
days. Yeah,
That's
when
exciting.
it'll be fun. When I got to school, I was like, and I talked to my mom about this because she goes, "You're always overloaded. You have too many things going on. This is your chance to rest. You got into
Yeah.
school, you can just chill." And I went, "Yeah, that's right, mom. You're totally right." And then I went to the club fair and I signed up for like 20 clubs. That's
Oh my gosh.
without exaggeration, particularly the ones that had free food some of the time.
Yeah.
I could just
Yeah.
eat all the free food. And I was like, okay, I'll do ones that are really business focused so I can learn things like if I want to find out about consulting.
Mhm.
And then I came across, well, also there's these ones that they drink wine and eat cuisine, or
Yeah.
they uh, do outdoors activities, or it's focused on language or culture. And I was
Right.
like, okay, I got to join a few of those, obviously. And then I found
You're
myself
just like going down the list. You're just like, I'm gonna
just,
join this one, this one, this one, this one.
then I was approached by the a cappella group. And
Yeah.
when we talked and they found out that I was in the Air Force Academy's a cappella group, and I got to sing and beatbox for President Obama at the White House and an exhibition at the America's Got Talent semifinals. And then I had
Look
this
at that.
long under.
Flex.
Yeah,
Flex.
it's as much flex as making funny drum noises for a world leader can be. Uh, yeah, and so they really needed a beatboxer, and I was like, I have zero
That's
time,
funny.
but yes, and it's such a great group of folks. Our a cappella group is called Heard on the Street, and compared to my undergrad one at the academy, which was called In the Stairwell, we were all male.
Uh-huh.
Ours is both across the different vocal ranges from bass to soprano, and we've
Nice.
got some fun songs coming up, and our karaoke is lit as well.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine, man. It's funny. I actually have two fun questions for you that I want to ask you. Um,
Absolutely.
I'm going to give you a hypothetical situation, and I'm curious if what you would do. Hypothetical situation: you are on a Boeing 747, and you're just a passenger. You're just sitting there, and then all of a sudden, one of the people comes out, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, the captain and the co-captain fell asleep, and we can't wake them up. Does anybody know how to fly a plane?" Would you be able to hop into the pilot seat of a Boeing 747 and land it safely?
All right. So the first one, I'm also probably asleep at this point. So someone's going to need to wake me up. I assume it screams when the cockpit is currently not
Right,
being used,
right.
or only by sleeping people. And maybe I did the standard pilot thing where, like, if you're a pilot and you're on a commercial airliner, And I think this goes for all pilots, although there will be some listeners who are going, this is absolutely not me. But you just like have to somehow allude to the fact that you're a pilot. I don't know. I hate myself each time. But if there's like the noise that happens when the flaps move or hydraulics are engaged, someone's going to go, oh, what was that? Is that concerning? And then I'm trying to fight it within.
You're like, no.
Well, actually, this is the movement of this. Just being the worst ever. And
I get it.
So I actively challenge myself not to bring it up. I've been better. In this case, though, 2 sleeping dudes or dudettes in the cockpit, I will get out of my seat, assuming that I perhaps didn't visit the lounge beforehand. And as I would go up there, I'm going to probably need some help pulling these bodies out of the cockpit.
Get them out, please.
Is anybody a doctor? And then a PhD in philosophy from somewhere pops up. Like, no, a medical doctor. And then someone helps try to revive them. And I feel like if I got in the cockpit of a Boeing 747 or 777 or any of the other Boeing platforms, I would have a pretty reasonably solid time being able to pilot the aircraft. So the B-52 is a Boeing platform. So even though it's much older, that also means it's very difficult to fly compared to the modern airliners. I think with my experience across different airplanes, even with a cockpit that I'm not necessarily familiar with, I'd be able to get in, aviate, navigate, communicate. I would also be concerned that both of them fell asleep. So unless they had
we're not going to talk about that part.
I'm like, is there smoke and fumes in here? Is
why are they both sleeping?
I might try to see if someone has a mask I can use, 100% oxygen.
I couldn't think of any other reason that both pilots would be incapacitated without it being really dark and creepy. So I'm just like, let me just say they took a nap. They decided to take a nap.
Someone challenged them to watch all of The Simpsons, and then like 100 hours or so later, they just couldn't make it, fell asleep.
Okay, so I feel safe. I feel safe if I'm on a plane with you and you're like, I got it from here. The second question I have for you is this: you've flown a lot of planes, but I'm sure there's some that you haven't. Is there a certain type of plane that you've always wanted to fly, but you haven't had a chance to yet?
Ooh, I would say in very general terms, I was actually joking about this a few days ago with some friends. A blimp. Not necessarily a plane, but as far as an aircraft, I would love to fly some sort of dirigible, a Zeppelin. Not because I'm trying to enter into like my evil mad scientist phase where like that's the kind of device that won't fly around in to take over the world. But I just think lighter than aircraft or vehicles are very interesting, and it'd be really cool to fly around in one and get the certificate for being able to be a Zeppelin pilot or something. For something more specific and for planes, the B-2 as one of the other now 4 bombers in the U.S. inventory is a really beautiful, interesting, like bat wing shaped aircraft. I won't have the chance to fly it. I think it'll be phased out before I would ever get the opportunity. But a good number of my friends fly it, along with the B-1, which is our supersonic bomber. I think that would be fun to fly. The one that I would like to fly most that will be in the inventory soon would be the B-21. So that's going to be our next generation bomber that's in the testing phase now. That's going to be a really incredible aircraft. I hope if I have a long, enduring reserve career ahead that maybe I can hop in the seat one day, perhaps as a senior leader, and just get a flight in it. But that's as far as military airplanes. Civilian airplanes, there's still so many. I'd love to be in a biplane, be in the back of whatever airplane's being used for the Thunderbirds or the Blue Angels in the future, decades from now. That'd be fun. And if anyone listening wants to take me for a ride in any of their airplanes or blimps, maybe you have some blimp pilot listeners.
You're right. Maybe the only thing I have a 2023 Chevy Bolt. That's all I can help you. That's all I can help you with in regards to.
It could be airborne, depending on the hill.
If I'm going fast enough, Would you ever go to space if given the opportunity?
If given the opportunity, Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I made a very conscious decision my freshman year at the Air Force Academy, particularly after Calculus 2, where I went, you know what, I don't think I'm going to be an engineer. So I think I should major in something I'm particularly gifted at, which felt like the social sciences or the humanities. And
Right.
knowing that I didn't do a STEM undergrad, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm turning down the astronaut
Right.
opportunity. I won't be a test pilot and then get the chance to be an
Mm-hmm.
astronaut. But if for some reason they needed me, I'm totally down. I'm happy to
Yeah.
be an astronaut or a commercial guest on a space flight.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to pilot a spacecraft as well.
Yeah, I would. I think I would do it. I think the only thing I wouldn't do, I wouldn't. Maybe because I was scared off with everything that happened last year. I wouldn't go down in the ocean, but I would go into space. Is that weird?
I don't think that's weird, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, with the dangers that could be present in both, I would
Mm-hmm.
rather it be, and these are all terrible circumstances, certainly, but
Yeah.
I would rather put the risk in space flight over
Mm-hmm.
deep sea exploration,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because I think it relates a bit more. And I love being underwater. I'm a master
Mm-hmm.
scuba diver. I enjoy
Mm-hmm.
being able to support some rescue diving training. And I was
Yeah.
just in Colombia and got to do a little bit of scuba diving and explore some
That's
shipwrecks out
awesome.
there. But
Mm-hmm.
super deep sea in a like
Yeah.
James Cameron style
Right.
submarine, I'd rather not. I'd rather go in
Yeah.
a spaceship. But if any of your
Yeah.
listeners are going to go
Mm-hmm.
to like the Marianas Trench and have an extra spot, and it passes all safety regulations, I
Yeah.
would potentially consider it.
Okay, so all right, so listeners, if you're people listening and watching right now, we need a blimp person, we need some deep sea explorers, we need some space people. If you any of you are listening, hit me up so I can hook up my friend because we're trying to go to space, we're trying to go down deep, we're trying to go
Not to go
all over the
anywhere.
place.
I'm really busy, but I'd be happy to
Right.
share some
We'll make
stories.
time for it.
Uh,
We'll make time for it. That's awesome, dude. I honestly, I think like, thank you so much for like legit like coming on and like sharing your story and I know that there's people that are listening right now that are like that are really thankful for hearing this story. And so my final question to you is this: you have been honored so many times for your various contributions, for all the good that you've brought this world. If there's somebody that's listening or watching right now that wants to also find a way to contribute to the good of the world around them and they don't know where to start, what would you say to them right now?
I love this question. I would say no matter how much time you may or may not have, there is always a moment to give back, and there is some program out there that relates to your interests.
Mm,
Just go to your search engine of choice and type in those interests, whether you want to help the elderly or youth, immigrant communities. There's a nonprofit, I guarantee, in your local area. And if you can't
hmm.
find one, please reach out to me. I'm on Instagram at Julian R. Gluck. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on probably most of the messenger platforms. Send a smoke signal, just shout really loudly. I might hear it. There's a charity that could use your help.
Hmm.
And when you find that, you'll be able to have an afternoon, an evening, a morning, sometime maybe over the weekend to do your part. And the team will love it, and you will love it, and you will feel like you're doing something which makes you happier inside and makes other people happy as well. So
That's
just
amazing.
it all begins with a search and the power of the
Yeah.
internet.
That's amazing, dude. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you so much for your service. Hopefully, I'll see you in space one day. Me and you, we're gonna go up to space. We're gonna explore a little bit. But honestly, thank you so much for your mentorship. Thank you so much for promoting volunteerism. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for everything. I'm so happy that we met because, and that's the beauty of the internet and all of that, because our paths may have never crossed, you know, and I'm glad they did. Shout out to our friends at JCI USA for the honor that was given to both of us last year. Shout out to all of the other nominees, or the other recipients, I should say, two of whom have already been on the podcast, and to the other six, I'm looking at you right now. You better come on my show. And to everybody else, honestly, if you're listening to Julian and you're like, hey, I like this guy, I'm going to include his handle down in the description of this podcast. Click on it, follow him, shoot him a message, and especially if you have a blimp or a spaceship, if you have any of that, shoot him a message, and I know he'll be more than happy to get back to you. Everybody that's listening, thank you so much again for watching and for listening. As always, much love, good vibes, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks, Guy.